Do you know on a set of poker chips they have the Bible printed on them?
Oh, really?
No way.
What? I didn't know if you were talking about a specific set of poker chips.
Oh, no, every set of poker chips just has the whole Bible written across them.
Yep,
Actually, don't gamble.
just like every hotel room has a Bible, every set of poker chips has a...
Just to remind you, don't indulge yourself into gambling. Just enjoy it a little bit.
Do you have a problem with gambling?
Do you, Gus? Do you have a problem with gambling?
Yes. I gambled coming here,
Okay.
LOL.
God.
I got him.
Okay, so this is... I think we're going to call this the BroCast.
The broke.
Yeah, the Gird Up BroCast. All right, so I'm Charlie Ungemach. This is
Do I say?
Hey, go ahead,
My name's
yeah.
Gustav Wenz.
known mostly as Gus.
Nope.
My name's
Okay, he's Gustav. I'm sorry.
my name's Ezra Blumer.
I'm Caleb Little.
All right, these guys are all... Well, actually, I am too. We're all students at Martin Luther College.
Hey.
So you are... Why don't we just go around and just talk about yourselves a little bit real quick, and we'll figure out who you are. So, Gus, go ahead. Tell us about yourself.
So I'm
Big fan of
should I
popcorn.
look at the camera or should I
Yeah,
talk
well,
to you
either way,
guys?
it doesn't really matter.
I feel like I got it. Okay. Hey there, people out there. If you see this, I don't know how legit this is going to be.
Yeah, they're about to just shut it off. And be like, this guy's going to be weird about talking to the
Alright,
camera the
guys,
whole
I
time.
just
Start
want to
again.
hold the microphone. I feel like Ricky Bobby. I don't know
number
what to do
3.
with my hands.
Okay,
Yeah.
Gus, talk to
Okay,
about
sorry.
yourself.
Hi, my name's, like I said, Gustav Karl Wenz is my middle name. That's my dad's name. With a K, FYI.
Oh.
Not a C, so...
Good
That's
German middle name.
Mm-hmm. And I'm from Shepherd, Montana, which is just northeast of Billings, Montana, which has probably the biggest Wells church in Montana, I'm going to guess. Maybe Missoula. Missoula might be a little bit bigger, but that's my congregation that I go to. I grew up all my life out there. I went to public schools, and then...
Public schools.
So I have real-world experience before any of these guys ever will have real-world experience like I did.
Whoa.
Because I've been having to do ministry since I was born, basically.
Oh my goodness.
Just kidding. No, that's
born for
okay.
this.
Bad joke. Anyway, backing up. Yeah, I don't have any family in the that serve.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I don't have any family. I was raised by wolves in Montana. That's
And then he
how
founded
it
Rome,
goes.
and then...
Yeah.
Where'd your brother go?
0 brothers, actually. I have 3 sisters. One of them goes to school with us, actually. She's a freshman this year. Her name's Annalise, so...
Now she
you
can't
guys.
deny it anymore. It's out there for the world to know.
Everybody asks her, hey, are you Gustav's sister? And she hates it, but, when
Yeah,
you're
my
me,
sister did the same thing. She hated being Charlie's little sister.
Right?
Yeah.
It's awesome. I love it. She hates it.
Well,
but-
I don't know. I think she actually did like it, but she said she hated it. I don't know.
Yeah, whenever they talked so I'm gonna, whenever the sisters talked, I'm guessing with us is they are like, oh, I hate being recognized as that guy's sister, little sister. But then I think deep down it's like,
They like it.
they like that little attention because I don't know, she probably wouldn't get any attention if just kidding.
Wow, God.
She's cool.
Goose, you can't
Hope you
just...
don't listen to this.
She doesn't. She won't. She will not listen to this.
All right, so what are you doing at MLC? Why are you
What
here?
am I? I'm on the pastor track, pre-seminary.
What's your emphasis?
Spanish, and that is, you know what? No negativity here. Everybody, honestly, the more I think about it, the more fun it's gonna end up being. In the future, right now, it sucks, but I think I'll end up being happy with the route that I'm taking. With the Spanish. I mean, it's better than doing German and Latin, right? In my mind, anyway.
Right, yeah. No,
So
God will find a way to use it. I'm sure.
yeah.
I'm sure.
But I don't know. I always feel weird when I have to describe myself on the spot. So you'll find more out about me as the podcast goes on. If we want to just roll
Yeah.
to
yeah,
Ezra or Caleb, which way are we going here?
Go ahead, Ezra. We'll
All
go
right.
around the table.
Yeah, so my name's Ezra Blumer, as mentioned before, and I'm a sophomore on the pastor track here at MLC. My story, I guess, is a little bit different than Gus's, but God found me in a way that I really wasn't anticipating. Just like some of the guys around this table, I grew up going to Lutheran grade schools, Lutheran high schools, and things. And my dad's actually a pastor in the Minneapolis area. My dad and mom met at MLC, so pretty much as Lutheran as you can get. and things, and had a great experience growing up and things. My parents loved me a ton, but I just decided to kind of run away from what was comfortable, and ended up going to the U of M last year, and it was a great experience. I learned a lot about myself. For the first time in my life, definitely had to like do things on my own. It was a really good experience, but I definitely took advantage of that freedom and went down a path that like I wasn't considering and wasn't really wanting to go down, heading to the U of M. And it was around that time, around, like 3 months in, when like I kind of hit my low at the U and like didn't really know where to turn. And all of a sudden, God put these like really amazing like godly men in my life. Just a couple of guys who were just pursuing Jesus at a campus that really didn't pursue Jesus. And they brought me along on that journey. And it was through them that I got back into church, got involved with the campus ministry there, met with those guys on a weekly basis, just did life together. It was like, man, this is what church is supposed to feel like. And they're really the ones that like pushed me to pursue a future career in being a pastor and things. And so God has this like workabout ways of like kind of having his will be enacted. So I've heard a lot of people say like, oh man, you should go into ministry all my life, like growing up. But like I didn't want to at all. I ran away from it. But somehow he pushes me back, and I'm getting through it with all the Greek and all the languages and stuff. I think it's super helpful that like I went somewhere else and then came and then realized like, hey, this is what I actually want to do, So that's been huge. Yeah, so that's kind of a little bit about me, and super glad that I found this like community of guys at MLC as well. So
yeah, well, and I think I've told all you guys at least once that I don't think I would have been able to handle the pastor track as an 18-year-old. I got mad respect for the guys that do, because I struggled enough just doing quote unquote normal college. At MLC, but still like. Oh, man, I struggled enough without any languages. There's no way I would have been able to handle it. But, I mean, that's part of the Lord's work, right? He brings us here when it's time, not when we want to.
It's so hard to see the end goal sometimes in that.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's such a long haul. So
yeah, especially like halfway through the semester, and you're just like, this sucks. This isn't fun anymore.
Especially when you have Greek at 7:30 in the morning.
Oh, gosh. I'm so glad that's over.
Yeah.
I don't want to ever have Greek at 7:30 a.m. again. All right, and then go ahead.
I'm Caleb Little. Like Ezra, I kind of had a different pathway here. Lots of it involves a mission country and a certain trip I went on. But along with that, I went to a public university to start out with. And it probably wasn't until the summer before I went into college that I actually thought about pursuing ministry. So I am currently a sophomore at Martin Luther College, pursuing pre-sem with an emphasis on Mandarin. And I'm looking forward to see what God has in store for me and my brothers in Christ.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about your mission experience at all? Or?
I was going to say, you talked about it the other day. Yeah, no, it's a pretty interesting story. And then, quick question for you, though. So, you went to public university?
Yes.
So you went to a different college before coming here?
Yeah, I was, my first semester, I attended North Dakota State University. I was going to be an engineer.
Yeah, I thought Minnesota was cold.
Yeah, fun fact about North Dakota, it receives the least amount of tourists out of all the states.
Oh, yeah.
For a reason.
Dakota, see, when I travel over here from Montana, I go through South Dakota. That's how awesome North Dakota is.
Do you hit wall drug?
Dude, yeah. You drive past Wall Drive. I've never been there, but the signs leading up to it makes it sound amazing if you're a newlywed, because they have free donuts if you're newlywed.
Really?
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Great.
That's the only sign that like I really saw, and I was like, man, good note. I'll take a tip. So now, for whatever future lady might be my lady, I'll be like, hey. So there's this place called Wall Drug. I drive by it every fall and spring, and would you like to go there?
When you get a free donut.
Get a free donut on our honeymoon in Wall Drug, South Dakota. It's very exotic.
Or you could just be my friend, and I'll give you a free donut.
When have you ever had donuts?
All the time. I take some back from the cafeteria.
Donuts are just. I love donuts.
Donuts
so much.
are the best. See, we should get one of the donut places.
That's true.
In town.
Why didn't you just? Oh, that would be dope.
You see what I'm saying?
That'd be awesome. Okay. Yeah.
So
get like a Quick Trip sponsorship and just eat Glazers.
There you go. So I didn't mean to like cause a major tangent right there. I just wanted to know. I didn't realize that all 4 of us at this point did something else before coming back to pursue pastoral ministry.
That is a good point.
Like I didn't. Well, and that's because I didn't know about your past. I knew Ezra and Charlie obviously has done other stuff before now.
I'm an old man.
Yeah, that's the main thing.
I'm like almost 30.
But
really?
Yeah,
I'm 28. Yeah,
I was joking. That's not that.
it's not old at all.
You got lots of life ahead of you.
Oh yeah.
But
anyway, okay, yeah. You want to talk about your?
yeah, talk about your trip.
All right, fine.
So
Whoa, Mission Country. Can we bleep that out in the? Final recording?
Right?
Come on, man. Sure.
Hey, I shall refer to it as the
niche.
Mission Country due to the illegality of it, perhaps. I don't know how much I want to say about that, but I'll go into as much detail as I can. Well, one, I had previously not had any yearning, not any want to pursue ministry before this trip. So it was pretty life-changing for me. I started out at I went to St. Croix Lutheran High School Academy.
I did as well.
As did Ezra. And there I had the opportunity to learn Mandarin. And I never really thought I was going to use it in any sort of way. I kind of took it because my whole life I had taken Spanish. I used to go to public school, actually, in Florida. And we just learned a bunch of Spanish there because half the class...
Why'd you say public school like that?
Because you assumed we all had Wells grade school experience.
Okay, but would that have been a bad assumption?
I mean, not necessarily. No, I guess.
So you learned Mandarin.
Anyway.
So I learned Mandarin, and I never thought I'd get the chance to use that. And the mission country in which I visited ended up speaking Mandarin. I don't know, some weird country.
This one country that speaks Mandarin.
Do they make a lot of products there?
Not at legality to speak that. But never thought I'd use it. But never thought about going on a mission trip. Never went on a mission trip until it's probably my senior year, when I wasn't even taking the language anymore. And the teacher came up to me and she was like, "Hey, Caleb, we have this awesome trip you should go on. And I think you'd be really good at it, gain a lot from it." I'm like, that's a little expensive for me. And she's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, no, if you ever want to, just talk to me." I'll skip over the rest of that boring story, but I ended up going to the mission country, and it was me and it was a fun group of people. We spent some time touring around, but then we had the opportunity to teach and preach at an English camp. So I was the science teacher and the PE teacher. I think my official title was athletic director and science teacher. So I taught 5 classes a day of middle school, grade school physics. I had taken a lot of those classes in high school, and I had a co-teacher and a translator in the classroom. But aside from that, aside from the teaching, we had the opportunity to share God's word. Share God's word in a country where it's not really allowed. Not the pure, true gospel, at least.
Because of legality.
It's this mysterious country,
But while we were at the camp, every morning we had a chapel of sorts, and they had people lined up for the week already. And it just so happened on the Friday of the camp, the last day, that the person couldn't make it. And so they looked around, and for some reason they saw this science teacher, this person who took them out for recess, and they're like, "Hey, would you mind giving the chapel on Friday?" And something in me said yes. I previously had chances to give chapel. I could have given chapel at my high school. That was one of the opportunities I had that I decided not to do. But something within me was just like, "Yeah, Caleb, you should do this." And I got help with my sermon from the pastor that was there. And when I got up there Friday morning, it actually ended up being on my birthday, believe it or not, my 18th birthday. So that was pretty crazy. I got up on stage, and in front of hundreds of little kids and their chaperone, I delivered a message. I stood up and I shared.
In English or in?
Yeah, so I said it in English, and there was a translator on stage with me that repeated everything I said.
Okay.
And so it was really life-changing. It was just telling the greatest story ever told, and how there is hope, there is grace, and that someday you can, it's not purposeless, having the opportunity to share the message was awesome.
Do you remember what portion of scripture you were going from?
Yeah, so the whole week we had been talking about Acts, Paul's conversion, because the people we were talking to were Gentiles, just like you and I. And so the conversion of Paul and what Paul ended up doing was pretty amazing. And the portion that I talked about was pretty much just the Holy Spirit, getting faith through the Holy Spirit. My message was that it was through the Holy Spirit and through Jesus that we had a ticket to heaven. So I think for some reason the theme of the camp was ticket or airplane, something. It involved a ticket. But it was simplified because it was lots of kids. But after I gave the message, and while I was standing up there speaking to kids who, before this camp may have never heard of Jesus before, and, they might never hear Jesus again, it was emotional. I was standing up there, I was saying a prayer, and they were repeating after me, and I just feel chills. Just chills going through my whole body as I saw the Holy Spirit at work, and it was a tremendous opportunity that I never had before. And so afterwards, I had like the pastors and the adults are all like, "Oh wow, Caleb, that was a great job. You should go pursue ministry." I'm like, see, I'm gonna go be an engineer. I'm gonna go make money. And so that's what I kept saying, and that's what I kept meaning until, halfway through my semester at NDSU, I had a few internships lined up for the summer, and then I really came back to, is this really what I want to do? Really what I want to do with my life? Really what my purpose is? And it led me back to the Bible and Ecclesiastes. I read that a few times until I'm like, you know what? I think I figured it out. And I thought back to my experience. Can you bleep that out, please?
In mission country.
In the mission country. But I tell you what, I still to this day, the best birthday present I ever received was after I gave that message later in the day. Two elderly Native women approached me, and they said in very broken English, and I don't know if these people had heard about Jesus before or whatnot, but they came up to me, these two elderly Native women.
Asian women?
Perhaps.
They might be.
Oriental?
Are we allowed to say that?
What are we allowed to say anymore?
And they come to me and they say, your message today, it really touched me. And best birthday present I ever got, really. If anybody out there listening or watching this, if you ever get the opportunity to go to another country or just even a mission trip somewhere, do it. Best experience of my life, and really changed it. Ended up changing from being an engineer to pursuing ministry as a pastor. So, yeah, that was kind of a summary of my experiences, and that if that helps you know me better, explain my
absolutely
Mandarin emphasis. Strange.
So you can do mission work in a mission
Mandarin,
country.
Yeah, Mandarin speaking country. Maybe.
Yeah.
We'll see where the Lord takes me. But certainly wasn't a straight line from A to B to get here.
Absolutely.
So Charlie, what brought you back?
Well, yeah. Long story short, I wasn't a big fan of the way the ministry I was doing was starting to change me. Not that there was anything, that wrong with what I was doing or anything, but I was hardening. My heart was hardening on some things that I wanted to be sensitive to. There's just a lot of
callousing type
Yeah,
thing.
I was really getting calloused, and I could tell that was going on. And then on the other side, like I was doing podcast stuff, and I was I was at that point where I either needed to just go all in on other ministry or kind of slow down on other ministry and go all in on teaching, one of the two. I don't know, it took me a really long time to decide, and I really pushed back on the idea of being a pastor for a couple different reasons. A couple different reasons. What it really just came down to was, letting the Lord lead and saying, all right, not my life. It's not my life. It's in your hands. I'll let you do with me what you will. And when that became my attitude, the decision was made very quickly. And then at that point, it was just deciding when to do it. And it wasn't a good spot in the history of the school I was at until COVID hit. And when COVID hit, everything changed. And it became the time to do it. So I didn't quite sell everything, but I sold almost everything and rented a U-Haul, and here we are.
Now you got this sweet place.
Yeah, this sweet place.
Super dope, bat-infested place.
Yeah.
Whoa.
It's way better than my dorm room, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it's bigger than your dorm room, too.
You know what? We were
I have my own washing
Caleb and I
machine
were just talking
and everything.
about how
The
much
dorm rooms aren't that bad.
Yeah, the dorm rooms aren't that bad, man. Why are you hating?
People
So
hate
what?
on
Okay,
them.
so the dorm rooms aren't that bad, but there are definitely things that are going on.
I mean, it's like a prison. That's the one thing.
Oh,
going
Yeah.
okay.
on.
Oh, I would not so much a prison,
know.
more like
Well,
a
I mean,
barracks.
the wall. There
Barracks?
you go. Actually,
Yeah,
there we
barracks.
go.
a bunker,
Sorry.
maybe.
So there's no bars on the windows.
Yeah, but that's not an actual real issue, right?
right.
So,
Exactly. So, but Ezra, so what do you dislike about?
Ezra
Our
looked at us
dorms.
weird when we said the dorms weren't too bad.
Well, I just would like a little bit more space, like
Oh,
Charlie.
okay.
Charlie has a room to have people
Right.
invite people in and just make them feel at home. I don't have that space.
Yeah,
really.
but when I
Okay.
was at your stage of life, I had the exact same amount of space that you have right now.
Well, COVID might be a little bit of an issue to that as
That's
well.
But
true.
we live now. We're in the moment. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
we see you doing this.
So
cool
what? How does
campus
COVID
thing.
affect? I know I pretty much just have to wear a mask to school. Otherwise, nothing really changes. How does COVID affect you guys?
Well, I think student gathering space is one of the biggest ones. It's just the cafeteria was a big gathering space before COVID, and now with COVID, we just can't gather as the same. And then the LSC just isn't we don't have enough gathering space. It gets crowded really fast, and so where is that space on campus where both guys and girls can interact and and just form community and stuff? Because I truly think that's the biggest blessing of MLC is the community that you form there is just insane.
Well,
it's heaven on earth, right?
Well,
Yeah.
kind of
Well,
sounded
and-
like you said specifically guys and girls. I'd like to point out that the guy-guy relationship is pretty great too.
Well, yeah, I agree as well. But I'm saying there is room there's space in MLC
As
for
friends.
guy to guy.
Thought I should clarify.
Timing on that.
There's
You
space.
stewed on that for so long.
Okay, Ezra,
Should I
I'm
clarify?
listening to you. Ezra.
Should I
I'll listen
clarify?
to you right
Should
now.
I say it? I should say it. I'm going to say it
We are-
right now.
Okay.
like,
Yeah. I guess.
if the
Sorry,
guys
go
want to
ahead.
get together for a guys' night,
Right.
Like,
we
we
can just
could
go
have
to
been
a
doing-
dorm room.
And it's true. There's definitely
Forward to a dorm
there
room.
aren't any fraternities really on campus because it is just in a good way, it is a big fraternity.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
you've
We're
got
all
guys.
brothers and sisters
Right,
in Christ,
exactly.
essentially.
Yeah, I would say, especially on a guy's side. You
Yes.
you have an incredible amount in common walking through the door.
Uh-huh.
And so you already have kind of that built-in
Brotherhood.
yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Well, and see, I think something that I was thinking about that I'm sure you're probably going to agree with the whole idea that there's not those spaces for people to gather. I think something that a lot of the COVID distancing stuff that we're having to do affects is people can't do that on their own time now,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. So I think back when spaces were able to be spaces for anybody to use, everybody was, you kind of have to have a certain level of courage to get a group together
Yeah,
and
that's true.
bring them to one spot. And since we're not allowed to gather as much, I think those people who might have been making those personal gatherings where they were able to build personal relationships, those kind of got extinguished. There's too many hoops to jump through to get to that point where you can have more than 5 friends gather in the same spot, And the thing is not that it's a bad thing, but that kind of makes it on the school to provide those social experiences for us. And that's why President Gergel was talking about how Winter Carnival is going to be all fancy and new and tailored so that we can stay involved, right?
Right.
There's not the student organizations. They're all put in on those activities as well. There's not those extraneous or
extracurricular.
Not extra. Well, like there's not those
extemporaneous.
Okay, no.
We're just flexing our vocabulary.
No, like there's not those. It's not like we can have just a random something
Like
in the middle of the week.
activities.
Yeah.
Not well.
I mean,
right. Outside of school, not outdoors.
Branching off of that, I know one thing that we gathered here to talk about today was how COVID was affecting our lives. And would you say that your personal relationships have been very much affected by COVID?
So I think that with personal relationships, for me,
Like,
I guess the ones that really count and matter, no. But the thing is like a big part of who I am is socializing, is spreading out and meeting people. Like that's something that I love to do, and I don't care how awkward it is.
I'm sure that'll serve you very well in ministry.
And we could still do it, but the thing is it's I think it's the potential personal relationships for me, the potential ones, like the ones that haven't started or the ones that had started, but they kind of shrunk down because I took almost 2 years off of being at MLC. So even people that were in my class, so I guess I didn't mention that in my intro. I came to MLC in 2018, and then I left that second semester of the 2018 school year and went home. And I kind of did a little bit of figuring out what I want to do, and I, ended up doing a year of school there and came back, right? So I had those relationships built up from the class that I had right there, but are we? What's
No,
up?
you're
No, you're good.
But the thing is like now, like they're still there, but it's definitely not what they could have or would have been if we have been able to gather more right off the bat with my return. Not that I'm suffering because of it, but it's something that I noticed. Like I wasn't able to click back into the MLC community until honestly this semester.
Yeah,
like the whole first semester was kind of, and I think that's granted for that's a given, anyways, even for freshmen who don't know anybody. But
Yeah.
Well,
I didn't realize how much I communicate, especially with people. Well, maybe not especially, but including people I don't necessarily know. Like just how much I communicate non-verbally. Especially with strangers. Like it goes a long way to be able to just smile at somebody 3 or 4 times.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly,
And then at some point when you do interact, you already oh, they're friendly, But when all you see is from the bridge of my nose up,
Yeah, it's tough.
I'm not always a happy-looking person from the bridge of my nose up either,
Well, yeah, exactly.
Smile with
I
your
think-
eyes.
I would
Okay,
love to smile with my eyes, but
want
I'm not
some-
consciously thinking about it as I'm walking.
Not
around
all of us have
campus.
beautiful eyes like you, Caleb.
have great
Okay.
eyes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, that's one of the things too. Is everybody's like, "Oh, make those expressions with the top half of your face." I'm like, "That's not possible. My lips aren't on the top half of my face. How's that supposed to work?"
I think I've heard it somewhere. I don't know if this is a for real statistic. I've heard it somewhere that the majority of communication is nonverbal cues. And I think by wearing masks, perhaps we're limiting our ability to communicate, and perhaps as a society, we're actually becoming more distant, more individual, less warm, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like that warmness was such a part of our culture at MLC. I mean, come on, where else can you go that everybody shares the same faith? Everybody wants to pursue ministry. I mean, that's a recipe for making friends right there.
Yeah.
And you have so much in common. But now, you look around and you can't tell if that person's smiling at you. You can't tell if that person wants to talk. You can't.
I can't tell you how many times a day I ask myself, "Am I being creepy right now?"
Yeah, no, I was gonna, yeah, that's what I was
Like,
going
it's
to
a
say too.
real
You
thing.
can tell that they look creepy. That's what that's exactly what I was
and
going to
it's
say
not
too.
even necessarily do they think I look creepy. It's just I have no idea what I look like. Like if I wasn't wearing a mask, you'd see that I'm smiling, or I'll tell a joke and someone would just stare at me. I don't know if you're smiling, and I don't know if you know that I was smiling.
At Cody Bone, right? I mean, even without a mask, he doesn't have expressions, but
That's true. He's just kind of deadpan, which adds to his charm in many ways. I don't know. What do you think, Ezra?
I think that the interaction, a big part of interaction was the by chance interaction, and that unfortunately has been kind of stripped away, not just at MLC, but in general in the world. Just the opportunity to by chance run into somebody and then strike up a conversation or a friendship. And the great thing about MLC is that people are open to those by chance friendships. And so now that you can't just like randomly run into somebody and like, hey, let's strike up a conversation. Like that by chance friendship is taken away. And that's where I think you said, Gustav, you're like, my close friendships haven't changed all that much, but like that bigger friend group that I was kind of anticipating, like, oh, meeting here and here and then putting those connections together and helping people form like bigger bonds and stuff at MLC has been challenged, I think. And so I think our goal in conversations with you guys is just to make those connections and take that extra step for people to kind of be a leader in helping people make those connections because it's such a challenge right now.
So I don't know if this is the direction Goose wanted to head, but coming from such a large college such as the U of M, is there a difference between the way you make friends or want to make friends, or
I feel like you'd be more into that, like just chance glance kind of friendship since you went to such a bigger college. Like, I feel like that's what all those relationships would be almost.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Well, yeah, to be honest, like my first semester at MLC was like really rough on me because like at the University of Minnesota it was like people were just so open to like striking friendships, and I met so many different people so quickly, and then I came to MLC and all of a sudden I felt like super isolated because I didn't have that close friendship to lean on. So like it was very tough at the beginning. I remember just sitting in my room and being like, what the heck am I supposed to do now? I don't really like know if I can just strike up a conversation with anybody.
Right. Well, and even just you're not allowed to go, like you said.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that was like really tough for me. And so I can't imagine like, some of those freshmen. I'm a very outgoing person. So like I was able to overcome that a little bit. But for those people that like aren't naturally that way, like I feel really bad for them.
And real quick, like my sister's one of those people too, and I think we got to come back to that kind of point. That's something we should address. But I was going to ask Caleb here. So from your one semester in North Dakota,
yeah, it was one semester.
Like, what was that like for you? I guess when it comes to meeting people and socializing. At that point, we weren't in masks, right? Obviously,
right. We weren't in masks at that point. It was very easy to meet people and make friends, and I'd say, I know we talked about MLC being a whole fraternity in itself. At NDSU, I almost joined a fraternity.
Yeah, we have Greek symbols and everything.
Lots of them.
A whole dictionary.
Especially on quiz days.
Yeah, but like at NDSU, right, the power goes out for some buildings one day, and it's as easy as, hey, you want to go get crepes at this frat house? Well, that leads to just friendships, All you need to have in common.
Just crepes.
That's all it takes. Kids and other adults who aren't at school, if you want tip, just crepes.
No, but there are so many different crazy, just a variety of opportunities to go out and do things with people, right? That day, instead of just, doing whatever I was going to do, I went with these guys and I had
crepes.
I had crepes, and I played sand volleyball. And
what'd you have before the volleyball?
Crepes.
Okay.
My first time ever having crepes, actually.
Wow.
They make crepes. They make crepes in North Dakota.
At frat houses in North Dakota.
Well, hey, it's close to Canada, right? French stuff.
Not that part of Canada.
Okay.
It's kind of close to Canada.
Yeah, but not the French part of Canada.
You know what? Doesn't
French
it's
part
all
of Canada somewhere else.
whatever.
I guess.
Anyway.
But yeah, that was just an example of how easy it was just to, someone that you barely know is just like, hey, you want to go do something? Because there is so much to do, even in North Dakota. And there aren't that many opportunities here at Martin Luther College at the moment. And so I think, especially if you're an incoming freshman who doesn't necessarily have that base of, unless you went to Luther Prep. Nothing against prep people. But,
oh my God.
Well, a little bit against prep people.
We'll bring that up later. That's another topic.
But you don't necessarily have that strong base of, well, hey, I don't know anyone. You don't know anyone. Let's go get crepes.
The best part of this is that crepes is not like a code word for something. They're actually eating crepes.
I'm kind of worried
crepes.
that crepes is trademarked or something.
Yeah,
Should we check that?
I don't know.
We should open up a crepe place in New
Freddie.
Orleans.
You'd think
Freddie,
it would
you
be like a
check that?
euphemism, but it's just crepes.
It is literally just crepes. I am not using crepes as like a code word for anything. I understand.
There's powdered sugar.
Yes. Yes, Goose. No, it was a fun time, and those guys were great. I'm sure. Yeah. Well, I actually went to the initiation of that frat before I decided it wasn't for me. But
they didn't have crepes there.
There were no crepes.
They had spaghetti.
They take away the crepes during initiation.
they lure you with the crepes.
They sold me on crepes, and they just
he probably didn't even get to eat crepes. They just showed it to him.
Right. Okay, so kind of a question for the group. So, this is your first year on campus, right?
It is,
Ezra?
yes.
This is your third semester?
Yes, it is my third semester.
So you came here second semester?
So, I had this weird route of I did one semester at NDSU, and then the next semester, I went straight to MLC.
So you are a sophomore now?
Yeah.
Or you have been this whole time?
I had enough credits transferred that I was able to stay ahead, stay in my class.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, in that case, you and Charlie kind of tested this as well, and then this will bring it back to the whole...
Wait, so we're going to be classmates, like, all the way along?
Yeah. Yes.
You guys graduate in 2021?
I will be as well.
Yeah.
2020. No. No, you have 2 more years after this.
Yeah, it's 23.
Ideally, yeah.
I mean, ideally, no.
That's what I have.
Yeah. 2023.
Because of the route I'm
2 more
taking,
years after this.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Hey.
we're gonna be
You're fine, we can't
classmates
reach
in the
each other.
SEM.
Okay, so-
That's right.
I will be
Distance.
classmates with you guys too.
Me as well.
Wow, man.
Way more concerned about you.
All 4 of us are graduating in 2020. All 4 of us.
Yeah, that's
dude.
right. We're
Oh,
talking
no
about
way. Hey. Social distance, right?
Okay. That one's for the fans out there.
Yeah.
Should be wearing face shields?
No,
Is that-
okay. Anyway,
Okay.
anyway, so something that I was going to bring up was with this whole socializing thing. So we've all been, us 3 have been to other colleges. Charlie hasn't, but
Yeah, I just keep coming back to
he
the
just
same one
keeps
over
coming
and
back
over.
to MLC. But something that is notable, and I mean, I guess kind of give us some clues from your first time around too. But you were a Wells kid anyway, so maybe not. Anyway, so I guess the point that I'm trying to get to is like even before COVID, there was a pretty decently sized social barrier coming from the outside, regardless of if you grew up at a Wells school or not.
Yeah.
If you went and did something else for any amount of time, or you went to a public school and you didn't have it in with people here, it was still difficult even without masks.
No, you're right.
It was pretty easy for me.
I mean, it wasn't the worst.
And I would imagine it's pretty similar for basketball, where you have some built-in relationships just right off the bat. I mean, like football, volleyball, soccer, cross country, it's the first day on campus you've already got a team, which helps a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But I've seen that in other people over and over, how difficult it is to come in. It is a culture shock.
So I think I see where you're heading with this, Goose, because you said we get back to the Luther prep part, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah, we can get there now. Let's do it.
No, there's nothing wrong with Luther prep.
Yeah, I guess to preface this, none of this is to deter anybody from going to prep or MLC. It's just something that we're noticing, right? Mm-hmm. And I think it's worth addressing, especially if you're a viewer or listener who is kind of considering the route that we're going on. Like, we're not saying this to scare anybody, but this is pro tips right now if you want... I mean, honestly, Charlie with the whole doing the football thing, like getting into activities at MLC right off the bat, that's the best way to do it. Mm-hmm. And I mean,
particularly you're like this.
I mean, so whether it be football, soccer, I mean, they kind of force you into choir or band anyway, mostly choir, but even those are good team building experiences if you want them to be. Any of the clubs, the clubs too, student senate, forum. There's a lot of ways to break that social barrier. We're not saying that the social barrier is like a block all the time for everyone coming from the outside. So that's just to kind of preface the rest of this conversation going forward. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
well, I mean, with that preface, I would like to get to the face part.
Yeah, let's get to the face. So we have the pre-face. Now we're getting to the actual face, and then we'll go to the post-face with Ezra.
I think...
I winked at the camera.
Okay,
For listeners, I winked at the camera.
Shush.
You mentioned that coming in, not necessarily at the beginning with everybody else, and not necessarily coming in with a huge crowd. It is difficult to make friends still. And I'd say if you don't join an athletic event, some sport, then that can be difficult. And that's because I feel like people, especially, I don't know if it's in the Wells, but they stick with what they're comfortable with. Lots of people from prep, for example, they like to stick together. They've had these friends for 4 years. and lots of them came with. I personally don't blame them for if they just stick in those friend groups. Some people might give them some heat for that, but I don't at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I still hang out with my St. Croix friends like Ezra.
Well, and that kind of evaporates to an extent over the 4 years of college too. It's like
Right.
freshman year, you all show up, you all know each other already. You like all and then as they spend more time in college, they kind of it does shift. It doesn't stay that way.
Yeah, but yeah, some would argue, and I've heard it said that some group, it can be a little bit cliquey, if that makes sense.
Just don't even say a little bit.
No, but I mean,
Just
you
be
make your
legit.
friends,
It
you
is
find who
cliquey.
you're comfortable with, and
Well,
that's
I mean,
understandable.
to be honest though, that I think that's pretty much every college. Like,
Oh yeah,
Oh,
for
yeah.
sure.
like,
Yeah.
like people find their friend groups like the first 2 weeks at University of Minnesota, and so like I think the conversation's maybe not even just like how is it like here at MLC, but rather how like do you address the clickiness or making friends and dealing with friend groups as like a wider everywhere. So
You didn't have like an FFA friend group at Montana?
So not at the college I went to. There actually there wasn't a lot of. So the college. Sorry. So
taking this a very serious route.
So coming out of high school, I was actually planning on going to Montana State University, and that's where the ag people would have been. That's where the agriculture. That's not okay. You know what? Maybe there's no Montana people watching this besides me. So there's not very many other
can't assume
ag
that.
schools besides MSU when it comes to like. Well, first of all, ag ed, which
And
was what
that's
I
all.
wanted to go.
That's Montana, not Mankato or anything, right?
Right, in Montana.
Yeah, he already said
MSU,
Montana.
Montana State
Just wanted to-
University.
MSU
Well, and the other
around
thing,
here.
like about like a place like Montana is it's actually not a ton of farmland and not a ton of I should say not a ton of farming
It's mostly
communities. I would
ranch.
say
It's ranching.
right, but not a
Yeah.
ton of farming communities. And if in order to have an ag curriculum, like an ag ed teacher, you have to have a community with a sizable enough agricultural component to it to make it worth it.
Right. Yeah.
Which,
As the
Well, sorry.
professional on the Ag Society in Montana, I would just like to say,
Go ahead. I was interested. What are you gonna-
I just thought that was really interesting that Charlie knew that about ag culture. I don't know.
well, my mom's family's John Deere dealers, so
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. If you
That makes more sense.
so
I know just enough to be dangerous and not enough to actually fix a tractor.
boom. That's the sweet spot right there,
Yep.
boys and girls. That's the sweet spot.
Do you need to know more? Is that
No, you don't, and you always get out of work because you're like, I just don't remember. It's been so long.
darn?
I'll hang out with you. I'll wear the boots, but when it's time to actually work, man, it's been
I
so
actually
long.
don't wear boots.
Been in
back
the
home.
city too long. It's just
But anyway, so like for me, the large FFA group, or honestly any group, because there's like business school out there. That was my plan initially, was to go out to Montana State University because I had no other idea what I wanted to do. So it's like you just follow the group that you're cool with, and that kind of goes along with the prep kids a lot of the times. And again, it's like, I say prep kids, and I mean it in the general sense of all
prep kids are
understand
great
that.
guys.
We understand that.
Okay,
I would just like to
but
preface
it's
At
like
your
it's very
public
directed.
university,
Yeah.
how did you make friends there?
I just forced myself into everyone's
Grapes.
lives. No,
I can relate.
No, actually,
Grapes.
That's how he ended up here, just forcing himself in.
so I'm doing a good job.
Grapes.
Well, I think
somebody
like
invite Goose. Or just,
I think people are like
He's just here.
he just showed up.
Okay. Go ahead, Ezra. Thank you.
on a real note, like I think like people are kind of like, I don't know if this is gonna make sense, but they're kind of broken into their friendships. So like basically everything they knew in high school is completely stripped away because it's such a big university that they don't have their comfortability anymore. And so what happens when people get into uncomfortability, they try to find comfortability. And so people as quickly as possible try to find their friend group so they can find some sort of comfortability at a big university. The difference at MLC sometimes is that people are coming in with, half their class, or they're coming in with a group of friends. So they're going to cling to what's comfortable, and they don't have to embrace that uncomfortability for a while. And so you automatically see these groups of friends that just stick together. And so, if you're somebody who's thinking about coming to MLC, or I think just a general rule in life, just be okay with being uncomfortable for a little bit, because it's through that uncomfortability that you're going to grow a lot.
I've never heard anyone use the word uncomfortability so
what's
often.
Uncomfortable crepes. Uncomfortable crepes. Those are the two words.
Crepes
Those
are
are the
Go to
hot button-
NDSU, just look for crepes.
Those are the hot
You'll
button
be fine.
words in
Just
this
look for
podcast.
crepes.
I don't know if those guys are the best influence.
But they make great crepes.
Great crepes. They
Well,
taste
I think-
great. I think there was a personal chef in the frat.
Wow.
Yeah,
That'd
it was
be cool.
It was pretty great.
It was me
It's
actually.
like something out of a movie. It's awesome.
wow.
Make me want to go to
Animal
public
House
school.
or something.
It was like Animal House, except it's just crepe house.
If any kids who are future
Goods
MLC
house.
students want to come, I will make a crepe for you. I don't know
Okay.
how
That's
exactly, but
That's
I'm
cap.
sure we
I know
can
you
figure
won't.
it out.
Just come find them. You're gonna
I
have some
came
freshman walk up to you next year and be
Contact
like,
me.
"Hey, Caleb, will you make me a crepe?"
Okay, well,
Honestly,
Ezra, Charlie,
now
and
you
I
have to
came
say
here.
I
yes.
hope so. I will.
You should just make crepes here. This could be the crepe house.
Well, you guys can make crepes
Bro,
here. I'm
you
terrible
could-
at making
You could
crepes.
start the crepe house here.
But you guys can
I
start
mean,
the crepe
it's
house here.
already kind of. It
I mean,
looks
it
like
doesn't.
it'd be the crepe
What
house.
about this says crepes?
No, that's okay. You're taking it. No, I mean like in the sense of it being a frat.
Okay, if you guys
Well,
want to come
No,
over and
it's
make crepes,
not. We're
that's
not
fine.
having frats at MLC.
But it's crepe. So now crepe has a code word. Like it's code
No.
for the frat. Oh, my bad. Never mind.
So we should just call this the crepe cast instead.
The crepe cast.
The crepe
Okay,
cast.
no.
I mean,
Oh,
crepes
okay.
are a great way, like Ezra said, to break. Like, something silly such as crepes, just find something you can do. Like, I made a friend last semester by joining them in a chalk drawing competition.
Oh, you guys were Baby Yoda, right?
Yeah, we were Baby Yoda. But then the rain washed away our chalk
Didn't you
art.
get forced into that?
Slightly. It's kind of a funny story.
Yeah.
But the point was, is I made a friends, and just by doing something different, it doesn't have to be.
you got
some-
outside of your
got
comfort
outside of the
zone.
comfort zone.
Also outside
forced
the
out.
I
dorms.
used my
Yeah.
uncomfortability.
Uncomfortability. Yeah.
Well, and see, I think something to note too is at MLC, I think it's a better place to be in those uncomfortable positions because you get pushed into a better position
It's
anyway.
a safe
because
space for sure.
yeah, because something that I was thinking about is
I feel
going
safe.
to those public colleges is you're in that uncomfortable point
Mm-hmm.
and you're trying to make friends. And thing is, you can go a lot of different directions.
You're
there.
very
a
vulnerable.
lot of
for
different.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're. I mean, you're already in a weird like I don't know what to do when it comes to like, do I say hi to this person? Whatever. I don't know. But the situations can take you different routes. I mean, like there's plenty of stereotypes of people going down bad paths. And thing is a lot of people like to downplay them, but it can happen.
I mean,
you know?
I went down, like, I never expected I'd go down a path like the one that I went down at the U of M. Like,
Sure.
it just, like, you're in this vulnerable spot where it's like you kind of grab onto the first person that shows you any sort of, like, love or, like, any sort of, like, really true friendship, and, like, you
Yeah.
immediately grab onto that. And so, like, it is dangerous, you have to, that's the first time you're really taking your faith as your own because you don't have your parents, you don't have chapel every day. Like, they're pushing you to...
Faith is so important in college.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be strong.
I was-
strong faith.
Yeah, I was gonna say that is just as important after college too, because
Oh,
that's
yeah.
I never rebelled at, well, I shouldn't say at all, but I really didn't rebel at all until after I graduated from college, and then my first my first ministry was in a big city. I'd never lived in a big city before.
Yeah.
It wasn't China. I mean,
Whoa.
Come on, dude! How
There are
much
going to be
editing am I
so
gonna have to
many
do?
beliefs
Okay.
in this.
so-
you got to find out if you actually have to bleep it.
I
first, though.
think
I
you
mean,
probably
maybe.
I didn't reveal that much
You didn't.
information.
We'll talk about it later.
Yeah, that's
So
a
the
conversation for later.
anyway, so I was in a big city for the first time. Lived on Brady Street in Milwaukee, which was a poor decision. It was a blast, but it was a very poor decision. It's like the hipster, it's like hipster strip there. It's literally one street like in River West that's just all hipsters all the time. Just like a cloud of pot smoke descends over the entire part of the city
You're
for
woke.
That
the
will
summer
happen.
months.
You're one of the woke
It was
people.
an 8th floor apartment, and the elevator was always broken, so you had to walk all the way up to 8 floors.
Sure,
and
you had
everything.
great
Oh,
calves though.
I mean, I've still got great calves. You see my legs.
I don't.
Yeah.
I've been wearing sweatpants a lot lately.
Yeah, I don't.
I
Not
don't know.
recently.
It's okay. I'll wear shorts tomorrow. You can check me out.
Okay,
The last
good.
conversation we had about your legs wasn't that great.
How many conversations have we had about my legs?
Well, I mean,
Okay, we don't need to have any more though.
Not on the
So,
podcast,
yeah.
guys.
I don't know. So that and then it wasn't even like it was just the environment. I don't know. Like when the environment changes like that, and you lose that structure and you lose the community of believers, essentially.
Your environment is so important.
Yeah.
I don't want to cut you off.
And it's something you can control, I guess is what I was trying to say.
Yeah, that's true.
And you can't let your guard down just because you're at none of you guys are doing this, but you can't, the temptation is, like, I went to a, liberal arts Christian college, so I'm going to be okay.
Right.
And then you leave and you're like, well, I'm still going to be okay because I went, and that's just not the case. Like, as soon as you do let your guard down and you say, "Oh, I'm okay," you're not going to be okay for very long.
Or even, "I'm going to be okay because I'm a called worker."
Like, well, that was your first time out, too,
as soon as your attitude becomes, "I don't need to worry about it. I'm just going to be okay," then you're not going to be okay.
You have to be on the offense when you deal with your faith and with the devil. Like, he's going to come at you every single way, and if you're not on the offense, he's gonna find cracks, So.
Well, I think something note too, Charlie, for your experience, it's like people knew you as that Christian guy in the community too, though. I think the difference for myself and Ezra, like, people knew that I didn't do the things that everybody else did, and I think based off of those things that they knew about me, they were like, "Oh, he's either Christian or Mormon. Those are the only two options." and
Montana, yeah.
And that was really as far as it went.
Mormon friends.
Well, and see, that's really as far as that information went, unless they asked me about it. I wasn't really wearing it on my sleeve because I was just going to school. I wasn't doing the ministry at the time, or that wasn't my point at that time. I wasn't trying to spread God's word, which, honestly, that probably would have been one of the best times too. But kind of
there's such a need for the gospel in college.
Exactly. But that's kind of going off track what I'm trying to say. But it's like you're out on your own, and people know you to be the Christian guy. So it's like
you want to flee from.
It's
that?
kind of easier for them to target you and see what they can get you to do.
For sure. Yeah.
Well,
and I eliminated the world and the flesh. Satan knows the work you're trying to do, and he's going to do absolutely everything he can to undermine it and demolish it.
Because like if certain people know you and know your faith, they're going to come at you with everything. Like a lot. And see, the thing is a lot of groups, they're all about that openness and, oh, this is okay, that's okay. Like, we're okay with everybody being here, and that was pretty much my experience at my college, because where I would study was next to the game room, and it was up in what we called the sub. It was the student union building, and a lot of people would have like their club meetings there, and so right outside, like, I sat right outside what was the diversity center, aka the gay room.
Wow.
There's not a better way to put it. They had the rainbow flags up right there, and like every month they would change what they would post on the big outside wall, and it would have like gay people through history, or like how we got our freedom, or whatever that's supposed to mean, right? And that would just be posted out there, and that's something that me as a Christian is seeing, and they would have meetings. And so you see all these people who are struggling in a sin gathering together right there, and then the next day you see
encourage each other in the sin.
To encourage each other in the sin. But then the next day in the couch area, kind of where I studied, you'd have like what it was called crew, and that was like the women's Bible study group for the college. Well, like, it wasn't endorsed by the college.
Did you sit there on purpose?
So you were just studying during the women's Bible study. Oh, okay.
Oh, you guys do Bible study here.
Interesting.
Weird.
He knows exactly where that Bible study
Just because I'm better
Crazy.
at talking to women doesn't mean you guys need to come at me like that.
All right.
Yeah.
Anyway,
sure, yep.
How many dates does that get you, huh?
I'm looking for the one, Charlie. I'm looking for the one. I don't care about the dates.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
numbers
the point,
help sometimes.
Stop.
Wow,
well, the point that I'm trying to get
count sometimes. What's that supposed to mean?
What does this mean, Charlie?
Okay, so
because this sounds like a notches on the bedpost.
While
kind of
you're
thing.
looking for what? Okay, stop.
Okay.
I'm a 28-year-old virgin.
Hey.
Let's get that out there on the table, okay? Now So if you're trying to find the one and you haven't found the one yet, there's nothing wrong with meeting a lot of women.
So then why'd you guys get all uppity on me for sitting outside the girls'
because
Bible
it's
study?
funny.
Poking fun at
and we
you.
really enjoy making, and you
hurts
got
a lot.
offended by it
hurts a
super
lot.
fast, which is hilarious.
Preface this with I'm a 19-year-old
You know what? I'm
virgin.
gonna. Okay.
Okay, so the girls.
Yeah. So
Well,
you
I'm
were
just
saying.
saying. So this isn't. It was just
Oh, yeah,
supposed
they're
to be
right
an
next to each
example
other, yeah.
because
So they meet next to the sub.
in the sub.
In the sub.
So we would all, like,
Noted.
just everything was happening. And at the public college, you would have Christian groups gathering along with other groups of people. Everybody's sinners, but, like, people of, like,
celebrating their sin. Yeah.
studying and celebrating openly sinful people that the college is endorsing. Like, that was a room made just for those people. You know what I mean? The Christian group of gals, that was just like, they lived in the dorm, so they'd come down and that's where they'd hang. And that's what they would do. You know, and
which is awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and I was like, wow, this is like, that's awesome. Good for them. And I have a sister that's going there right now, and I tried to hook her up with that group too, so that she could have a group of other strong young women who have faith in God, so that she can have that every day. And I don't know what she's doing. I'm sure that she's taking advantage of whatever experiences she can in that sense of maintaining her faith while she's at home. But the thing is when you're at those public universities, they just accept diversity in the most broadest sense, that they accept it up until somebody who has something wrong with one of the other groups has to say something.
Yeah, I think you bring up a great point too, in that at like one of these big public big public universities that aren't Christian, that it's important to surround yourself with people who have the same faith, the same belief, because it is so easy to surround yourself with the wrong environment, right? You're just saying how your environment affects you. And if you are surrounding yourself with people who are out there, I mean, they're drinking, as in over drinking often. They're out there doing who knows what, people doing things that they shouldn't be. And if those are the people that you are around often, like,
You got to be careful.
you got to be really careful. Because, one, first of all these people need Jesus, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you have to be there to witness to them. But by being around these people, you open yourself up to these sins. And you got to be on guard. And I think it's important to have that community that for the majority of the time, they're around you, you're looking up to each other, you're supporting each other in your faith, and keeping track of each other.
Did you guys have any like experiences or anything to draw on that helped you kind of navigate this, or was
Like
it just
the
kind
public
of
university part?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Ezra, what do you got?
I'm trying to think.
Like to help navigate us towards a Christian community?
right?
Yes.
Well, like, Ezra, you kind of talked about how you did struggle.
Yeah.
Gus, it sounds like you didn't struggle as much.
Well, we'll get there.
And you
but
just
we
hit an
wanna hear from
existential
Ezra.
crisis the moment you got there. So
Hey, it was at least half the semester in.
He panicked. He got there and just panicked right off the bat. What am I doing?
Ezra, what was your
Ezra.
experience?
Go for
No,
it.
I think it's just like being open to what God has in store. And so, like, for example, in my life, like, I got, kind of involved with the wrong crowdness, maybe, in a sense that they were, the party kind of scene and stuff. And my dorm was kind of separated from the rest of the campus. And so it was either like go out and, have a little fun with everybody, or you stay in your dorm all night and be alone. And like it was really tough for me as a 18-year-old kid being alone at a college where everybody else seems to be having fun around me. And I dealt with that, and like I said, like it was like in a real moment of just somebody being there for me and wanting to be open about their own struggles that I like truly found community. Like I think in high school, like I was surrounded by a ton of people who we had that same foundation of Jesus, but it stopped at the foundation and didn't go into vulnerability and like actually real conversation. And that wasn't their fault. That was my fault. Like I didn't want to open myself up to other people and like be real with them just because I was so scared of like them like not wanting to have that friendship with me anymore. And that carried on into college where I didn't want to be vulnerable with people naturally or be vulnerable with other Christians because I was so scared of what they would say. And like the crazy part about it is like God worked through that friend group, the friend group that was like the party friend group. One night, like one of the girls in our group like came into my room at the middle and like 2:00 in the morning I'm asleep and just knocks over everything. And
That's
she's
weird.
yeah, and she's just like really dealing with some like dark stuff, and like she had a little bit too much to drink, and she just starts bawling, and I'm like, why the heck are you crying? What's up? And she's like, well, my best friend like just committed suicide like the last week, and like for me as a Christian, that was the first time that I was like, what do I say, you know? And it was through that conversation, everybody came back, all that friend group came back into my room, and we just sat and we had like, it was my favorite moment of college so far. We just talked about like, what does it mean, like what's going to happen in the afterlife? Like where do you think you're going? And as a result of that conversation, like people started to come to like campus ministry with me, and it was like such a cool moment. But back to my main point, like through that story, like I just see like God working through such a bad situation for me at the time, but yet somehow he uses it for his perfection, like his glory. And like that's the entire story of the Bible, which is so cool. Like him using broken sinners, broken situations, and just perfecting his will through it.
Yeah, so, using broken, sinful people, just like all of us, right?
Yeah. Well, and like I've said, if I hadn't crashed and burned and desperately needed a change, like 4 years ago, I probably wouldn't be doing this now.
Yeah.
Like it would have been a completely different path. And so, yeah, I absolutely see where you're coming from there. Just letting, not necessarily sinning on purpose so that God can use your sin to do something great.
Not
but
how it works.
When you find yourself in those situations, and you realize that you haven't done what you ought to have done, not just like throwing in the towel and being like, oh, I'm all in on sin, I guess. But just saying, okay, Lord, use it as you will. Forgive me. Let's
use it.
Change it and move on.
It's a great comfort, isn't it? That all the wrongs, all the sin that you did in your past, like God's going to find a way to use that. You don't necessarily, like obviously it's wrong. You repent of those sins. But you can have peace and comfort knowing that God is greater than your sin. And we are so blessed to have that in our lives, because there are so many religions, ideologies out there. I mean, those sins, those wrongful actions that you committed, you have to pay for those yourself. And I mean, that's traumatizing, isn't it? Like,
well, literally pay for them. I mean,
I literally pay for them with, I don't know, with time. Down under, down
money,
in hell,
everything.
time,
down
money.
under.
Down under, not Australia, but down under as in, hell.
Yeah.
That's what people think. And obviously hell is a real place, and that's a whole nother discussion I don't want to get into. But the nice thing is that Jesus paid for our sins, on the cross. And that I think we're so blessed to be in this faith, right?
Well,
absolutely.
Look at us right now, it's like we can all point back to that spot where we were like, man, we need to turn around.
Yeah,
this is messed up.
Ideally, you get.
And I don't think that's unique to us either.
Well, I mean, not necessarily to the point where it's obviously awful, but we know, like, we feel that guilt. We have that conscience where it's not. It doesn't have to be the worst thing, but it's just bad enough to our hearts and our minds individually that we're like, I don't like the way that made me feel, and I know God didn't like it either. So I'm going to turn back to him, And then, I mean, a lot of people, it could have just been turn back to him and go to church, but we decided, hey, turn back to him and go and become,
You don't need,
students.
let me just preface this. You don't need to be a
Wait,
pastor.
We're so far beyond preface.
You don't need to be a pastor or
mid-phase,
teacher
at
to
least?
serve God.
Are we at the mid-phase?
I don't know. I have no idea how long we've been doing this.
You were looking at the clock. I thought you knew.
I can't see the lights are too bright. I can't see the clock.
I think it's 8:12.
It's 8:12, guys, obviously.
I think one other point, like, I kind of wanted to make as we keep this discussion going about, like, Christian friendship and, like, how to go about, making those friends. Like, I think my experience at the U of M, once I, like, started to live, like, the Christian lifestyle and started to turn things around a little bit, Jesus was working and changing my life radically, was that close friend group that I maintained that I was vulnerable with was a group of Christian guys specifically. And then, there was Christian girls that were my really close friend group, but I think when I really got down to it, it was a group of guys that just pushed me to be better, pushed me to live as Christ, spoke truth into my life, which was so helpful, where you have that, like, barrier just completely gone when it comes to people. And then, the girls, like, were amazing to have conversation with. Like, I have some girls in my life that, like, every time I talk to them, like, the wisdom that they share and, like, I come away with from that conversation is like, dang, like, I learned so much just in that short period of time. But I think one other thing is, like, I look at having like my friend group as like almost 2 friend groups. So like I have those really close friend groups, and then I also have like another circle of like bigger like friends that like I'm not going to.
He's huge.
No,
Got him.
Charlie's in the close friend group.
Sorry.
But
You're fluffy.
But you know,
Fluffy.
Fluffy, he's not fluffy.
Okay, actually,
That's-
I mean, on the Gabriel Iglesias scale, you're not fluffy.
Not
That's
even a
true.
little.
Sorry,
Wow, no,
I didn't mean to go
he's-
there.
he's
You
That's
got a
my
little
in
bad.
muffin
shape.
top though.
That's my bad.
Anyway,
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead.
I'll get my
I'm an
terminology
endomorph,
right.
man. Go ahead.
Okay.
but
I thought it was funny. Sorry.
Appreciate you, Caleb.
Sorry.
No-
You keep
no
interrupting
problem.
Ezra when he's on these great little spiels. Sorry, buddy.
But that larger friend group, you have that second circle, and that's when I think you really need to evaluate who you think you can touch with the gospel. And like you look at how Jesus was able to touch so many people that struggled with huge sins. You know, he stayed with the Samaritan woman at the well. Like he was curing people left and right, was literally giving people exactly what they need in that moment. And that's when I think you really evaluate who in your general area needs to hear the gospel or just needs a really good Christian friend. So, you know, you talk about the people on campus that are really struggling in an open way with sin. You know, I don't think it's wrong to have a really good a friendship with them because they need to hear Jesus through you. You know, and that may look like just having and showing them love. Like they've never experienced true, kind Christian friendship of love and like just model to them. And then I saw it left and right. Like people at some point would be like, why do you love differently? Like, why are you such a good friend to me? I clearly am doing stuff that contradicts what you believe, but it's through that love and through that friendship that you have this amazing little platform that Jesus gives you in the midst of it. And so like as you listen to this, I think just encourage you to have that really close Christian friend group, the guys that, you know, of the same gender or the girls of the same gender, and then you supplement that with other Christian friends of the opposite gender, and then the outside group, you really look and evaluate who can you touch.
Yeah.
And sorry, go ahead.
No, never mind. You go, Charlie.
They're a lot more likely to listen to somebody they know and have a relationship with
Yeah.
than they are to somebody that don't. Like no, I wouldn't say nobody's ever been converted by a fire and brimstone yeller on a street corner, but not many have. They're a lot more likely to listen to somebody that's proven over and over that they genuinely love them.
Yeah.
I think the first step to witnessing actually is building a relationship with people. I know there are lots of people out there that, you know, they aren't living the Christian lifestyle. I worked in a warehouse over the summer and just.
What are you saying about warehouse people?
Nothing's wrong with warehouse people. I'm just saying the people I worked with weren't necessarily the Sunday regular. And whenever they talk to me, I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to be a pastor. And they're like, what? That's crazy. What does that all mean? And that's like an excellent opportunity, at least for us, you know. I've built a relationship through work with these people, and I've had several of them come to church with me. Some of them I like to think go without me. Most of them probably don't, but I'm praying that someday, you know, they look back on, you know, their days in the warehouse. Someday when they're struggling, they're like, you know that one kid, that really showed that he cared and loved about me. I think he was onto something.
Yeah.
I hope that someday that pushes them to go to church.
Yeah. Well, and along that same token, then, like politics right now is a hot mess.
Oh
right?
boy.
And not that I want to necessarily talk about politics, but it's a real thing. It's like the craziness surrounding it. So many people have very little identity outside of identity politics, right? And that is another spot where we can just absolutely love on people. But how has the division, I'd say, in American politics affected you guys? Has it really?
Oh yeah.
It's funny you bring that up.
Oh yeah.
I heard a joke recently that
Oh no. I don't know if we should be saying
No,
political.
Go ahead.
it's
Go
not,
ahead.
Hear
Go
your
ahead. Go ahead. Go
jokes.
it's
ahead.
not specific to any political side.
Well then,
Go ahead.
I'm going to talk
Tell the
about
joke.
let's hear
that
it.
some people lose their personalities every 4 years
Yeah.
because some people
Stop it.
I'm laughing.
You guys ruined
some
it.
people really identify with their political group,
Right,
and
yeah.
make that their main personality. That's all they talk about. That's all they say.
Yeah.
They make that the mainstay in their life. And so that was just the joke I was saying, that some people lose their personalities every 4 years because
Right.
that's all they can
I
talk
think that's
about.
just a statement of fact, Caleb.
I
Thank
mean,
you,
it's
Ezra.
both. It's both. I mean, so it would be a lot funnier if it wasn't true for so many people. But I don't know. What do you? I honestly, especially being in New Ulm, like there are obviously people I disagree with politically around, but not many. For the most part, the people I interact with have pretty similar views to my own. I don't know. Have you guys? Your interactions been different?
Well, I think even with people with similar views, you can be affected by it.
Yeah, that's
true.
true.
Because there's a lot of, I don't know, radicals. I think that's probably,
Right, yeah.
like, there's a lot of people who are really passionate, and they might know that you agree with them, but they don't care. They just got to let it out.
Yeah, or even being drawn into
Like,
radical
have you had
points
that
of view.
happen to you
Yeah,
here?
I have for sure found myself being drawn into more radical points of view, and then after a couple of days going like, hold on, like at some point my attitude on this shifted, and I'm not sure I like it.
Right.
Or especially with some of the more controversial, like when you really get out to the right, or some of the issues like right in the middle where there isn't a clear Christian statement on it, you know? Like obviously we're going to stand against abortion. But like there's a lot of other things that end up being part of the discussion that aren't necessarily right or wrong. It's just an opinion thing, and taking a really hard stance on some of that stuff isn't necessarily right.
No, and that's kind of something interesting too. You bring up with people around here having somewhat similar views. I think that's actually a detriment. I feel like in our future ministries, we're going to encounter people with all sorts of beliefs, and we have to be able to witness to those people, and we have to be able to talk to them and love them just as we would anybody else. And so I'm glad I myself had experience outside of, just MLC, New Ulm area. I feel like I'm blessed to have had other people's opinions in my life, even if I don't necessarily agree with them. But we have to be able to put political values aside someday and show love and understand that we're all part of God's kingdom. We all sin in different ways. And so that's something that irks me a lot when someone tries to say, because you go to church, you must vote for this person. You must agree with these political values.
That's extreme.
Well, and even talking about like socialism and stuff. Yeah. Like I'm not a socialist by any means. I don't think it would be right for our country, but that doesn't necessarily make it inherently sinful. No. We've seen over and over again in historical context how it does how it does eventually lead to immorality. But you can also say the exact same thing about capitalism. Like we see over and over. Like we see, the whole
right now,
the whole Reddit thing.
Yeah, GameStop.
You can argue about whether it's immoral or not, but it's definitely
beautiful.
on the line. It's hilarious.
It's beautiful.
Whether or not it's moral, it's very funny.
Yeah, I love it.
But
GameStop is
we had to
the
love
best.
on both
Should
sides.
have invested.
Yeah.
Right?
That's what we were talking about that this morning. Like, I wish I'd invested like 2 days ago. Yeah.
Well, imagine what that money could have done for gospel work at.
Right. That's what I
MLC.
was thinking.
That was the whole time. That's what my thought was.
Well, I think where in this church is there space for a conversation like this to be had? Because I think people in church immediately turn to social media, or people turn to, there's just not a really good space to have a really adult conversation where you can just talk about, politics or about life. Like on Sunday, you're getting the pastor's going to preach, and I'm not a huge believer in politics. Like I do not think a pastor should bring in like a huge political stance into a sermon. I think that's not at all what God calls us to do. But at the same time, like there needs to be space for Christians to get together and have a conversation about what they believe, why they believe it, and have that biblical, comparison about, hey, this is why, based on the Bible, this is why I think the way that I do, or be able to have those conversations. Like I just don't think that there's a space for stuff like this to happen, and I think COVID's a possible explanation for why there isn't. But before COVID, like a lot of churches just, you have the Bible studies, but Bible studies are they're being led by a pastor. Like the pastor is completely not contradicting.
They're in the driver's seat, right?
Yeah, they're dictating the conversation, where it goes and things. But and there's typically like a point, and how often is like politics that point? Because you don't want to lose that connection. So my thing is like, how do we get conversation like this to just happen with a group of Christians who want to have an open conversation where they're not going to destroy or cancel the other person because of what they think or what they believe, you know?
Well, and then on the other side, a lot of the political things, far too often we forget about the fourth commandment.
Yeah.
And it becomes about like whether we believe it's right or not, where frankly God doesn't say if you think it's right. You know, if you think it works, like specifically the masks, you know, there's a lot of churches that are just kind of ignoring it. You know, I know like put on a show and put on masks on the way in and out, but then the service is still the same. Nobody's social distancing once they get indoors and all that. And I'm not necessarily condemning anybody, but the fourth commandment issue immediately comes into play there, where you have whether or not you like it, the government is telling you this is what you ought to do, and so it is what we ought to do.
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, that's cool. As Americans, we get to have the freedom to vote on it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean we're just like, no, I won't. Like that's exactly why we have a commandment.
Well, and then that's where I think like that conversation, like if you have somebody who you're really good friends with, like, and can have like that open conversation, hey, like I really am concerned for you because I think going back to the Bible, like God called us to honor those who are in authority of us, and like to have that. That's when I go, like, even going back to my experience at the U of M, like, that's why the experience was so great, was because I had those people that could speak truth into my life. I just don't think that's always possible, or isn't always set up in churches all the time. So, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely see what you mean, that there's not always a space for adults in churches, you know, people over the age of 18, or even under the age of 18, really, to gather together and have these important talks, these important conversations. Because, I mean, really, these aren't issues we can just ignore. In church, we shouldn't be divisive. In church, we should be talking about God's kingdom, not the kingdom here on earth. But outside of church, we're still a part of this world, right? We still need to go out there and witness to people. And the line gets drawn for me when people start trashing other people based on their political beliefs. I mean, I've heard lots of people say, just because maybe I'm surrounded by a community that's, you know, leans right, probably, that because of our new president, that he's a terrible guy because he signed all these executive orders. Yes, he signed the executive orders. You don't have to agree with him.
Well, even if he is a terrible guy, he's still the president.
He's still the
and
president,
God's put him
and
over
you
us.
still need to show love. You can't just be out here throwing out hate.
Well, and here's something I think that ought to be noted is that when it comes down to addressing situations like that should be like addressing any sin in a congregation. I think that's something that is different about the whole technology and politics nowadays, is that it seems like it's just loud, right? Because we see it on our phones and we see it in our face. Like, that's the point of it, right? It just gets in your face. Preface.
I think we're solidly in the face,
but
present face.
But the thing is what? Like, yeah, we should have a safe space to have good, godly conversations about politics. But at the same time, why? I don't think that it's necessary. You know, like, I think that if there are a bunch of people who have these pent-up emotions, like, yeah, they a pastor should go to them and say, hey, like, let's talk about this and figure out why you're upset. But then again, at the same time, I don't think it's something that we need to forcefully address in a congregation unless we need to, right? Just like any other sin, right?
Yeah, first we're in God's kingdom, right?
Right, like talking poorly on your neighbor and things of that nature, you know, bad-mouthing people, gossiping, things like that. Like, those are all things that should be addressed individually, just like you would if somebody in the church were lying or a hypocrite or something of that nature that's noticeable and it gets brought up, right? Like, the friends and family around that person should address them. And then if that doesn't work, right, then you bring the pastor, and then you bring the elders, and then potentially the congregation, right? The same way that we would with any other sin that happens, right?
Right.
So I think the thing is like, where do we find that sweet spot where, as a pastor or a future minister, like, where is it that we look at our congregation and say, man, it seems like there's a lot of unsettled, like, there's a lot of restlessness out here because of what's going on. You
well,
know?
I think like sometimes there's just a bottleneck on pastors because they're just one person, and so like my idea of having like that group that holds people accountable, I think fits naturally into your idea where that's like the first step. So like to have a group that's already meeting with and you're being with, community with, that's naturally like a group that can hold you accountable in that, you know, and so I think. I think that's a good place to start. Like the pastor just can't like do everything, and he can't be the eyes and ears of like every place, you know. Right. So, how do you address that?
And so that's when it comes down to the people who are close to those people who have those emotions need to address it, right?
Yeah.
And then if it gets out of hand and they don't know how to address it with Scripture, that's when you talk to your pastor, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Right. So, of course, none of us have been ministers of the
none of us have
gospel,
been
right?
in that position yet.
So, how do you think, I guess, how can we apply this to college, right? Kids are going out there, maybe from their Lutheran high schools, maybe from their public high schools, and they're going out to public universities, and they are being, you know, there's lots of this all shoved in their face. Like, hey, if you don't agree with this, then you must agree with this, then you must mean this, you must hate this. Is there a way that you can live surrounded by all that, I wouldn't say political bias, but say surrounded by people who are screaming at you to believe one thing or say one thing, and how do you do that in a Christian way in which it's loving, you don't offend people, right? I mean,
right.
Offending people is really easy these days, but
well, I mean,
how do you do it in a loving Christian way?
I think, my answer would be, in that situation, one, find yourself your Christian group in that group, right? You're in that new community, you're at that new college, find those fellow Christians as soon as you can, right? Because you need to have that reinforcement. Just like all these sinners need to have reinforcement in their sin that they're committing, we need reinforcement so that we can help them potentially. Like, we need to have our hearts protected as well, right? So find that Christian community as fast as you can. I was blessed when I was going home, when I was doing college at home. That's where my church is. So I was able to go to my church. If I ever had a problem, my family was right there because that's where my family lives. But not everybody has that, right?
Right.
So in that, like, I mean, if you're a good, godly, young individual who's scared for their faith at that moment, I mean, honestly, find a Christian group, get into your Bible, and if you're still scared after that, leave. You shouldn't stay there. You shouldn't stay in those places if you're worried about your own faith, right? I mean, potentially go back, right? After you feel stronger or after you've gotten to a point in your relationship with God that you think that you'd be able to handle that kind of situation. But, you know,
I think one thing we keep coming back to is community.
Yeah.
I feel like that's been one theme.
And the culture of the community you're a part of. Yeah.
What is it? You become like the 5 people you hang out with the most. I've heard that used many times in a sermon. But, I mean, that's true. You are who you surround yourself with. Yeah. Like, when you live in college, you pick up the habits of your roommate. Like, I notice myself saying things my roommate would say. And it's just like that with everyone you hang out with the most. Yeah. And so if those 5 people you hang out with the most aren't necessarily living the best lifestyle, maybe start hanging out with some other people. I mean, don't stop hanging out with the people who aren't living the bad lifestyle entirely, because, you know, it's still important to be there for them, show love, show Christ's love through yourself, right? But surround yourself with people that you want to be like and people that will push you to be better. I think that's so important. I know the podcast, Gird Up, right? That's all about becoming, you know, a man of Christ.
Absolutely. Right? Absolutely. And as we head out the door then here, fellas, in a second I'm going to ask you one thing you're excited about or looking forward to before we close it out here, and then we'll go for like your Instagram handles or whatever you want to share with everybody. But before that, we got our show sponsor today is the Brigadier General. So Nate Hensler is a friend of the show. He's an MLC grad, actually. He's a great dude. He puts together the Brigadier General beard oils and supplements, and you guys done this. Gus just shaved. Ezra, you got a little scruff going on there. You can try some if you want. But we've got we've got 3 I've used a couple of these already. So this one's sandalwood. This one's deep in the woods, which might
Deep
be
in the
my
Woods.
favorite. Actually, you want to try that one?
I might have to try that
There you
one.
go.
You'll have to show
And
me
then
how
this
to do
one's
that.
whiskey barrel. You can smell it. They smell great. They smell great. So I've been using sandalwood because it's kind of it's less of a strong scent, like inside the mask.
Yes, let me.
So I've been using because it's a little bit more
You've
muted.
been getting suffocated?
Yeah. Well, especially before I trimmed my beard, I had to put a lot of beard oil on because it was a big beard. And then after a while, all you smell inside the mask is your beard oil. But it's okay because it smells great. Yeah, doesn't it smell
Smells
good?
Like sandal.
I know. Well, sandalwood.
Hey, it sounds
Okay.
That clean
So
feet were in.
did you put some in?
I did. How do you put it on? I've
Okay,
never
so you
used
put
it.
you.
All right,
there's-
demo.
Be careful. You don't want to pour too much out.
Here-
So just
here,
put a
come
little
on,
drop.
come on.
Okay.
There we go.
Just a little
You're the
tiny
two
I
big
drop.
put my
guys.
hand, a little
Yep.
drop on there.
Just a little drop.
Hey, move your mic out of your face so they can
That's
see you
probably
put
more
it
than you
on.
need, but that's okay.
Just-
And then just
I put a
rub it into
little
your
on.
hands.
There
Rub
we
it in
go.
my hands.
There we
Rub it
go.
into your hands. Yep.
Watch
And
very
then,
closely.
I kind of smooth it in like that, and then I get down. So I get really dry, like on my chin. So
So
I
shiny.
give it a good scrub down with the chin. Make sure you get the mustache.
All right.
And then especially sometimes when my skin's dry, I'll put it right on my face.
Just on
too.
your skin too.
Yeah, or
Yeah,
up
I
into
feel
my
that.
hair.
It's really.
Yeah, and then it's
And I've never used beard
like
oil
the flakes
before.
and stuff from my beard. Like if
That's kind of gross.
it is kind of gross, and that's why you should use beard oil. Like, just forget about the fact that we're sponsored by a beard oil. If you have a beard, you should be treating it well. Otherwise, it's disgusting. So,
Yes.
Caleb, you're about to graduate into this. Now you're at that point of beardness.
Yes.
Where you
This
need to
is
start
my
using
first
beard
time
oil.
with a beard.
Yeah.
So,
So if you want to buy Brigadier General beard oil, you can find them on Facebook or at Google. Wait, what is it? Sites.google.com/Brigadier General. And thank you, Nate Hensler, for sending us beard oil as well.
Appreciate
Gus, well, I'll start off. I actually knew you start. Gus, what are you excited about? What are you looking forward to? What's going on? Exciting things in Gus's life.
Well, I'm excited about the rest of this school year, honestly. Like most people here, I think things have been feeling a lot better than first semester anyway. Even with like the higher regulations that we have, I don't know. I don't seem to mind as much as I did. I
I would agree.
I think the extra long break definitely helped.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much less uncertainty, too.
Yeah. But yeah, for me, Greek homework mostly. Just
You're
finishing
looking
up
forward to
school.
that?
I am looking
I
forward
kind of
to
am,
that.
too. I'm really surprised.
Honestly,
honestly, doing the translations, it's like solving a puzzle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. But we're not going to talk about it because it's too awesome. But, yeah, no. I don't know. I'm just excited for school. I'm excited to keep this going, Also excited to start going to Mankato for BioLife. Hey.
Donating
Whoa.
cash.
Get
Off
some
campus?
money. Okay, whoa.
After 2
Oh,
weeks.
release
All right,
this
right.
after, like next week. Release this next week.
Okay, go ahead. What are you excited about, Israel?
Yeah, I think this semester is like a really cool opportunity. So we talked a lot about like community and stuff, and like how there seemed to be kind of like the people just kind of falling into it first semester, trying to figure it out and things. And I think because of all the stuff that's going on, like it's just going to be up to us to make our own fun, like to do things to pursue uncomfortability, and so I definitely think with this really tough like objection, like there's also a really cool opportunity. So I'm excited for this semester, just forming bonds like this, keeping them going, connecting different people to other people that really want to grow deeper and live the life that Jesus has won for them. So I'm really excited for this semester.
How about you?
Well, honestly, just this semester, I really am already starting off with some great habits. My roommate and I have a great schedule. We have pretty much the same schedule. You hear me all right? No?
No,
Not at all?
not at all.
How about
slide
now?
here. Just, hey, we're sliding Ezra's mic to him. Just do that. If that's okay.
No try?
Hello.
Nothing.
Hello.
Give me
Want me to just use Ezra's mic? Okay. Completely cut off. Oh.
phantom power got turned off. That's the settings I was worried about. Talk.
Hello. Oh, hey. think I can.
Oh my
myself.
God! Hey!
Whoa.
Wow!
Hey, coming in hot there.
Is that a round?
Torpedo.
Is that a start
Caleb,
over?
what are you excited about?
Wow, I can hear myself really clear now.
That's very exciting.
I'm excited about, just class is going to be great. My roommates and I already have a great schedule going down. We had the same schedule and school at the same time, and we have a good habit of doing 3 to 4, after class, we play a game of cribbage or play a game of Rummy 500, whatever. Not the entire game of Rummy 500.
Whatever. It was such a Minnesota. We're playing Rummy, whatever.
But, we'd take a little time off, like an hour. We eat lunch and then study Greek for however long that takes, eat supper, finish the rest of our homework, and then we have like a few more hours just to chill. He FaceTimes his girlfriend, I go cry. No.
I was going to say, it sounds like you're dating your roommate. Like, you guys do everything together.
We had the same schedule and we were both interested in, making sure we keep up with our studies. So keep each other accountable, but just overall looking to a great semester.
Awesome. I'm excited about starting the semester, obviously.
Yeah, how about you, Charlie?
Yeah. I definitely excited about starting the semester, but most excited right now, just happy that this is kind of back and going. I was so bogged down and busy last semester that this wasn't really a reality to be able to do this. So I'm really pumped about this. So we got a YouTube channel going now. So it's going to be this. Once we get up to 1,000 subscribers, we can do this live. Right now, we can't do this live.
Oh,
just
so we have 1,000
advertising.
subscribers.
So be a subscriber.
Yep, like and share, and make sure people
And
are watching
subscribe.
this.
Share,
And
subscribe.
subscribe, so we can do
Sharing's
this live.
cool, but
Turn
mostly
on
And
post
then
notifications.
once we do this live, then
Geared up.
once we do this live, then it'll be even more fun. We can even do some interaction and things like that. So we're gonna do this, and then we've got a YouTube series called the Agogi. So gird up Agogi, going out for geared up more like middle school and high school boys. Talking about like lessons, things that every boy needs to know to be a man. So really excited about that, really pumped about it. And then most of the stuff is also going on the podcast. So this episode will be on the podcast as audio. It'll also be up on YouTube. So awesome. You can find Gird Up at Gird Up _B_A_man on Instagram, or the Gird Up on Facebook. Gus, where can we find you?
Facebook and Instagram. Those are probably...
What's your name?
They're both different. Just look up
Yeah.
Gustav Wenz. I'm the only one.
WENZ.
WENZ. Gustav, Gustav.
Okay, thanks. Okay, Ezra, what's your...
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at Ezra Blumer. Blumer.
You can follow me on Instagram. I'm on there occasionally. It's that_little_guy3.
Oh,
A lot of underscores.
yeah. There's a lot of,
I know. I
Big
thought it was
big
funny.
fans of underscores here.
I don't think you want to follow him considering he has so many
right.
underscores.
See you next
Yeah,
time.
let's
Go be the man that God created
I'm
you to
gonna
be.
start a random
Awesome.
podcast called Pud Rig.
What?